about how he's a witch layer, which was slang at the time for someone who claimed to have power over spirits and that he could put them all down. So he was in his cups. He was just going on about how cool he was. So when they get to the Bell farm, they were welcomed by Mr. Bell and his family. And instead of camping outside the home, the Bells invited them to stay inside because these are military boys and they did good in the War of 1812. So, and of course, one of them is a war hero. So Bell's happy to entertain them. And so they're all just gathered in the main room, you know, awaiting Kate to show up.
Okay.
Well, the witch lair, we're going to put that in quotes. The witch lair had a big flintlock, right? It's a big pistol.
Right.
Loaded with a silver bullet. And he had that in hand, and he was keeping it close because when Kate showed up, I don't know what he was going to shoot because you can't see her. She didn't appear in physical form. She talked.
Right.
But he talked a lot. I mean, he was talking about his adventures, his how courageous his was. And even Andrew Jackson was like, I kind of wish the witch would show up and slap him.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't say it out loud. He kind of whispered it aside, but he thought he was being a braggart and didn't like it. He didn't think it was becoming for one of his men.
Right, absolutely.
After Jackson tells this, you know, to one of his guys, hey, I wish this witch would show up and put the boots to him because I would like to see him run. Not too much later, a voice, the same one they'd heard from the bushes, it comes from the corner of the room, and it says, all right, General, I'm on hand and ready for business. And then the voice addresses the witch lair, right?
Uh-huh.
Tells him, and now, Mr. Smarty, here I am. Shoot. So the guy stroked his nose because that's supposed to activate his witch power so he can see her.
Uh-huh.
And so he goes to shoot the gun. It won't fire. So he checks out the pistol, goes to shoot it again, still won't fire. And meanwhile, every time the thing's like, try again. Try again. You know, just
egging him on.
Right.
Right.
So at that point, after like the third time it attempts, the witch says, now it's my turn, you old hypocrite, and begins to beat the tar out of him.
Wow.
Just, he's getting beaten from pillar to post by something that nobody can see. And finally, you know, and the thing's just talking crap to him, telling him, like, I'm going to teach you a lesson. And so he's running around screaming, and all of a sudden he's like, oh my God, she's got me by the nose. And he goes running off, and all they can hear is him. He's running for all he's worth saying, oh my God, she's got me by the nose.
Wow.
After he disappears,
Mm-hmm. Sounds patient. Take his fudge-sicle.
After he disappears, Andy Jackson falls over on the floor laughing.
Laughing hysterically.
Yes. And about that point, Kate shows up again. Doesn't show up, but they hear her, right? And she says, how the old devil did run and beg. I'll bet he won't come here again with his old horse pistol to shoot me. I guess that's fun enough for tonight. You can all go to bed now. But I'll be back tomorrow to show you another lout in this company. Well, that was enough for Andy Jackson. He decided he didn't want any more fun. And so he decided to leave. And part of him, like, if it was just him and a couple of guys, he would have stayed. But he really didn't want this witch to run through his company. And also, that was as close as he'd ever been to the supernatural, and it bugged him on some level.
Of course.
And in fact, when asked about it, he once said, I'd rather fight the British again than face the Bell Witch. And that was the story of Andrew Jackson and the Bell Witch.
Fair enough. That's pretty interesting, though. And yeah, I mean, it's one of those stories that's one of the big stories from the Bell Witch legend that just really, it ties it into something that we can track back, and a story that comes from somebody who's very real in history. You know, you can't do that with all legends. So.
Right. And from what I can find, it appears to be at least a story he told. I can't verify the truth of it. I wasn't there. But on the whole, I have to say that listening to this story, I wholeheartedly believe it. And I tend to agree because I have to be honest again and say I'm not the first person to put out the poltergeist theory. It was put out long before I ever decided to do this story. And one of the people that has put it forward is our friends at Astonishing Legends.
Yep.
And they did an amazing job, a better job than I was able to do with the research I did.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to fangirl for just a second, and you can totally cut this out. But does it make you feel kind of good that when you say our friends, the folks at Astonishing Legends, that we actually know that they know who we are? So you kind of have some reality base in them being our friends.
Yeah, that's why I said it that way.
You feel free to cut that out, but y'all, they noticed us.
So, at the end of the day, I believe the story of the Bell Witch. There's too much information on it for me not to believe it. Even without all the evidence, the stories all from that time,
something was going on there.
Align.
Yeah.
And while there are those who say, well, you know, it was a common practice of spiritualists at the time to engage in ventriloquy, and that's how they did all the voices.
Okay, but yeah, that doesn't fit the situation like at all.
Yeah, well, that, and you know, how do you is Betsy sticking herself with pins for fun? She had injuries. I mean, so, and it fits that classic, powerful poltergeist story. It fits that ability to apport things, like the poison that it got. It wasn't in the house before. It just appeared there.
Uh-huh.
So, and
I still hate that they poisoned the kitty cat, though. I just think that was awesome. I just think that was just neat.
Oh, you just said awesome.
I did say awesome. I'm sorry. Awful. I meant awful.
I knew what you meant. However, I get what you're saying, but you got to remember, back in that day, a cat was not as much a pet as it was a useful ally on a farm. Because people, I mean, mice were common, a very common problem, and cats kept them under control.
Right.
And cats, I mean, I don't know that spaying and neutering was a thing then. So if you got, you know, a male and female cat, you had kittens, and cats tended to be around quite a bit. So
right.
If you had something you wanted to test on something, you didn't do it on the dogs. The dogs were hunting helpers. You tested on one of the cats. And that, sure. I don't like it, but that's just the way it was in the early 1800s.
Fair enough.
I'm glad we know how to spay and neuter, and we got kitties like Apollo here. Yeah, sure.
Apollo's a butt sometimes, these spoiled guys. I didn't ask my opinion on this.
Well, I already gave mine. I think Dad's pretty much given his. What you got for us, Krysta Land?
Well, personally, I do think it's real because... See, who in the name of Badoo would randomly talk to people in bushes for multiple years on end?
Kind of. I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't make sense that...
And I wouldn't necessarily say evil stuff like that. I'm sure some people would. Psychopath. But most people wouldn't.
It kind of reminds me of both the novel and the movie Phantoms.
Right.
Which Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, yo. Okay, there's listeners who will get that, but since I see you both looking at me, Ben Affleck was in the movie Phantoms. He played a sheriff.
Okay.
And now later, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back.
Uh-huh.
Jay mentions Affleck being the bomb in Phantoms.
I see.
Right.
And so that's a common, it's just one of the lines in the movie. It actually, I think, is repeated. Affleck was the bomb in Phantoms, yo. Because they run into Ben Affleck. But anyway, the point is that the creature in Phantoms shares something. It taunts the people coming after it. It goes after them.
Gotcha.
And it's got that same sort of weird sense of self and weird sense of psychopathy that Kate did. And I think that Dean Koontz might have taken some of the personality for his main antagonist from Phantoms from the Bell Witch. I don't know that to be true, but certainly it seems to be informed by that.
I see.
And as I said, this is an iconic American haunting, and there are a few, the story of the haunting in Connecticut, but this one is unique because I do not know of anything else where a poltergeist got away with murder, and that is what it did.
Right.
So, that is our show on the Bell Witch. We certainly hope you enjoyed it.
Shout out.
We're getting there. I'm getting there. Why do you got to tell me my job, Krysta? Why?
I'm trying to help.
Why you got to tell me my job?
I'm
She's
trying to help.
taking part in the process, Dad.
Yeah. Dad.
So, thanks to our listeners for listening. Thank you for getting us up on those lists. I mean, it's the first time we broke those lists, and we broke them pretty high up. 18, 22, 11, good numbers. So thank you all.
Yes, thank you all.
Thanks to Bill Barrent, who does our theme music. And if you have music you need for a project, reach out to Bill Barrent, BEHRENDT, at voiceovermusic.com. He is a wizard of
All things musical.
I was going to say he's a wizard of the keyboard. Or better yet, he's a wizard of the wave file.
Ooh, there you go.
Right.
Also, thanks to Paige Elmore of Reverie True Crime for doing our art. Thank you, Paige.
Who is talented and beautiful.
Yes, she is talented and beautiful. Did you finally see a picture of her in our chat group?
I did.
And thank you, Ms. Vernicus, for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Vernicus, for listening.
And all of our listeners.
Really, all of our listeners. Yep.
Thanks to Aaron Gnurk of the Big Dumb Fun Show for doing the local promotion he does for us. Remember to follow us on Twitter. We're plot_family, or you can follow Laura at famplotmomlaura. Yes, famplotmomlaura. I always remember to try to transpose that and make it Laura Mom.
That's okay.
So Fanplot Mom Laura, or you can follow Crystal at FCrystalline. Make sure to join our Facebook group, which is where the first people who found out about our Fortune with Good Pods with our Facebook group. Thank you for being part of it. Those of you who are.
They got tag team posts from both of us.
Well, we're proud of what we do.
We are.